Yeah, it's your boy Crypto Blood, and welcome to another episode of My 2 Cents, where I cover non-crypto related topics such as pop culture, sports, finance, science, and automotive. And today, this is gosh, I got something that I don't even have listed here. Geopolitical. We're gonna be talking about China and them starting to ban other countries' trash, including the U.S., but more in particular Japan. And we're gonna look at an article about that today. But first, song that I picked today is from Meek Mill, Lean With It, off that Mr. Philadelphia album from 2013. Classic album for sure. What's good, people? Hope you guys are doing okay today. And yes, we're going to be talking about this geopolitical issue with China, man. China is starting to, and is probably prompted by the tariffs that Mr. Trump. This is what I'm talking about as far as, you know, good intentions, but some maybe unintended consequences from what Mr. Trump is trying to do. President Trump is trying to do with these tariffs. He's really trying to reinvigorate America, get some of those jobs and manufacturing plants back here. We all know that the true state of a country's wealth is what they make, and so we definitely need to get back to that. But, you know, these are some of the things, these are the big pills that we're going to have to swallow and deal with if we do this. If we piss off a lot of these countries by stopping the gravy train, this is what we're going to be dealing with, people. Retaliation in a number of ways. So this first article, because there are two that relate to this. The first one, though, is about Japan and China, out of RT, and it says here, Japan finds itself buried in plastic waste after China stops importing world's trash. Nations across the globe are beginning to suffer from waste buildup after China stopped importing recyclable garbage this year. Japan has become the latest country reporting severe recycling industry overload. China's ban on imports of 24 types of solid waste materials such as soda bottles, mixed paper, recycled steel, and newsprint has impacted the recycling chain across the globe. Japan, which last year exported about half of its 1.5 million tons of annual plastic waste, is now piled up higher and deeper in its own garbage, with many local governments struggling to cope with the problem. About a quarter of the 102 local governments surveyed reported seeing accumulated plastic waste, which in some cases overreached sanitary norms. Environment Ministry data showed this week at least 34 municipalities noted that they are failing to find new destinations to outsource their plastic after domestic costs of processing waste shot up. China's refusal to accept more garbage is overreaching to Japan's recycling industry, with 34.9% of companies limiting or considering restricting the quantities of plastic they can accept. To deal with this problem, the Japanese ministry said it will expand domestic capacity to process plastic waste. The government also wants to introduce measures to prevent illegal dumping and expand the use of bioplastics, which are biodegradable. A similar problem was reported this week in the UK, which last year exported roughly 2/3 of its recyclables. The local government association blamed the Chinese ban for the change in council's recycling methods, which are forcing the local authorities to add an additional 500,000 pounds a year in cost. It's clear that the ban by China on importing waste, which could soon be implemented by other countries, could have a marked impact on council's ability to recycle, said Martin Teat, environment spokesman for the LGA. China, which over the last 25 years was taking in 45% of cumulative plastic imports, without a doubt made a huge impact on the global recycling system. While many Chinese companies relocated their operations to Malaysia, the Asian country does not have the capacity to replace China, and this week imposed a 3-month ban on imports. They're talking about Malaysia did. We will do our very best to ensure that Malaysia is not the plastic rubbish bin of developed countries, Science, Technology and Environment and Climate Change Minister Yao Bi-yin said. The article goes on to say here, Vietnam, which welcomed foreign shipments is also finding it hard to cope with recyclables, imposing a temporary ban on imports between June and October. Thailand, the other world destination of plastic goods, reportedly will ban imports by 2021. The closure of the Asian countries to plastic will also affect the U.S., which in the first 6 months of this year exported its recycling to Thailand, Malaysia, and Vietnam. So this is why we're having these countries, or not countries, but cities starting to ban plastic straws. I think that may be why. I don't know. You guys let me know what's up with this whole movement to stop using plastic straws. And I know Starbucks is trying that. When I was out on the West Coast, we really noticed that a lot. A lot of places weren't having any available plastic straws. That hasn't really hit the Midwest yet, but you guys let me know your thoughts on that first article that's really more focused on Japan and their issue with China doing their ban on recyclables. I mean, really, you know, this is really what the issue is. You know, people talk about global warming, but hell, where to place these non-biodegradable materials and waste that we have is really an issue. It really is an issue, and we need to address that for sure. The second part, though, is focused more so on the U.S. and China's relationship. This is out of RT as well. It says U.S. demands China to reconsider catastrophic ban on importing foreign garbage and recyclables. It says amid fears of a potentially devastating trade war between the U.S. and China, Washington has urged Beijing not to implement the ban on U.S. garbage and recyclable materials that Asia's giant threatened to impose last July. Why would you expect them to honor that request? You know what I mean? Like, there's just some, I mean, I guess you can ask, but there are just some things you're going to have to know that we're going to have some retaliation policies. Absolutely. In an effort to battle the illegal foreign garbage influx into China, last July, China's Ministry of Environmental Protection notified the World Trade Organization that it plans to ban imports of 24 types of solid waste materials, such as soda bottles, mixed paper, recyclable steel, and newsprint. Despite the threat to implement the ban by the end of the year, the document stated that the proposed date of adoption is to be determined. Concerned over the massive impact the ban could have on the U.S. economy, on Friday, the U.S. Trade Representative urged China to re-examine its decision. They say here, we request that China immediately halt implementation and revise their measures in a manner consistent with existing international standards for trade in scrap materials, which provide a global framework for transparent and environmentally sound trade in recyclable commodities. Another trade representative said that China's import restrictions on recycled commodities have caused a fundamental disruption in global supply chains for scrap metals, directing them away from productive reuse and toward disposal. Washington's demand came a day after President Trump ordered the U.S. Trade Representative to levy tariffs on at least $50 billion of Chinese imports. Although the USTR was given a 15-day grace period by Trump to propose a list of Chinese products that will be targeted, China's Commerce Ministry has already threatened to take legal action against the U.S. through the WTO. The country is also contemplating targeting 128 American products through an imposition of harsh import tariffs. The Chinese Foreign Ministry also made clear that it has all the necessary means to engage in a trade war with the U.S., but urged Washington to reconsider its aggressive economic policy. Beijing warned that the American consumers and enterprises will bear the brunt of the trade war with China. And I agree, they probably will, but at the same time, enough is enough, in my opinion, with how we allow them to just suck everything from us as far as economically trade, imports, exports, and we don't benefit here in the States from a small business standpoint. It has to stop. And again, we're going to have to deal with the repercussions of this, but I think in the long run, it's going to be beneficial for U.S. enterprise. The article goes on to say here that China is by far the biggest importer of U.S. recyclables. Banning U.S. junk imports will have a catastrophic impact on the U.S. labor market and will drive up waste management costs. According to the U.S. Institute of Scrap Recycling Industry, in 2016 alone, America's scrap exports to China totaled $5.6 billion and provided the industry with 155,000 jobs. While the Chinese representative at the meeting in Geneva on Friday agreed to relate the U.S. voiced concerns to Beijing, the envoy still noted that ultimately individual countries are responsible for their own waste. If the Asian giant closes off its waste management market, recycling centers across the U.S. will be faced with a hard choice. They can either hire a much more expensive workforce, which would raise prices of their services, require households to sort their own waste, or be forced to use more landfills across all 50 U.S. states. The most viable option would be to redirect the flows of U.S. garbage into third countries, which, however, may not have the facilities for safe recycling. This would raise concerns over potential environmental damage, the EU's representative noted at the WTO meeting. So there you have it. What do you guys think about this whole situation? Look, again, we're going to have to understand that there will be repercussions for these tariffs, without a shadow of a doubt. Are we ready for it? Probably not, but we need to get ready for it. And on top of that, I will say, like, we don't know what can cause this next black swan. This could be it. You just never know. Like, if China goes through with this will have pretty heavy repercussions here in the United States across many businesses. So you guys let me know your thoughts on what China is doing. Are they right to do this? And is this a big enough leverage tool for China to really stave off a lot of these tariffs that Trump is putting in place? You guys let me know your thoughts about that. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff, and click that bell. Make sure you click that bell if you have subscribed to my channel. And that's pretty much it. My 2 cents for today. It's your boy Crypto Blood, and I'm out.